Hello there, welcome back to Battle Brothers Abridged. I realise there's not that much point explaining what happened in the previous parts. Basically, we didn't lose the campaign, nor in particular did we win it. We got a bunch of people killed, we got and lost some money, and we're still wandering around just doing missions. So here's the next mission, we're attacking this ancient cemetery. I mentioned last time that this was a particularly interesting one. Unfortunately, I completely misremembered. This wasn't the fight I was remembering when I thought that this was interesting. Although it actually was a bit different to the other fights, because we're fighting some monsters here. It doesn't make a difference at first because we're just in a line, slapping each other as you can see. A double line, in fact. I'm not quite sure why. Maybe I was feeling like our first line was going to die particularly fast, but I had a reserve line behind the front line that can't do anything. As the fight goes on, they're going around the edges to land more attacks. But check this out, one of our frontline guys actually does go down right away because these big monsters can just eat you. That's a bit of an issue. Well, we've already got people ready to fill in the gap, I suppose, so this is randomly paying off. All we can do in response is keep stabbing away. We just need to kill them before they kill us. So we get stabbing. Unfortunately, on top of the eating, the big enemy is also super powerful and can just kill a soldier in one round, like right there. So now our line really does have a gap in it after I move the reserves away. Our guys are losing their morale and one of them at least runs away in a second, so we're getting kind of screwed over here. Luckily, by just continually stabbing back at the enemy, we're making some progress at least. We do lose another guy instantly as he tries to go behind the monster there. That didn't quite work out. I'd really like to see this game make more use of positioning and being behind the enemy counting for something. In this case, as mentioned, we just keep stabbing. The enemy are on the verge of routing, we're on the verge of routing, nobody likes this situation, and in the end we win. We're going to kill the big one last here, and as it happens, you get the guy that was eaten back, so we actually didn't lose 3 party members there, we only lost 2, which is still an absolute disaster, but a bit less so. It's still going to be a financial loss for this mission to lose those party members and their armor and stuff, but less bad than it could have been, and that's the best we can hope for. As for loot, we get some things we can sell, some monster parts, so we'll make some money back off them at some point. There is even some money lying on the ground here for whatever reason, handy. So we go back and hand the mission in. Now we've actually got quite a lot of money now, but I'm not spending it, I just immediately take on another mission. And that is because I'm trying to get to this 2,000 gold renown goal. So if we complete that, we'll get more money in the future. That's why I'm saving up and having a little bit worse equipment than I could have at this stage if I wasn't doing that. We go on to attack a bandit base, and this map actually has some spiked obstacles on it, so it's a little bit less open. I initially ran backwards. What I want to do is have the enemy fight me in front of this tiny raised area so we can take an advantage from that. Well, they just didn't move at all, so eventually I went back to attack them, and they didn't even move when I was in close quarters, so we're now fighting in this weird formation. The 2 lines are just sort of mixing together. In some places, we've got their soldiers surrounded, like right there when we easily take that guy down, and then they almost take one of my guys down because they've also got us surrounded right there. Awkward, but as it happens, the RNG goes in our favour, and our nearly dead guy doesn't get hit again and survives. Meanwhile, we storm forwards. Lots of these enemies have very poor armour, so it doesn't take too many hits to kill them, and we can make some progress. Plus, also helping us out in this fight is the fact that their best guy, the armoured guy with the mace at the back, didn't do anything, he just watched the entire time. So by not participating, that makes it much easier for us to kill his lesser companions, and then we move on to surround him and just take him down with overwhelming numbers. So in the end, we had a very successful fight, we just barely avoided a loss, and we even got some good loot. The armoured guy dropped some of his armour at last, and this base, I suppose, has some of the regular stuff I would expect to be getting from every battle, like food and the enemy's general supplies. I'd like to see it like the base has loads and general parties have some, but this game is not how I like it, of course. So with that done, we can now go home and hand it in and have the money for this 2,000 gold renown objective. This causes us to buy a battle standard, which costs 1,000 of the gold, but it's going to be worth it, as we'll soon see. completing one of these objectives gives you something like 100 renown, whereas doing a mission gives you like 25. So it's like 4 missions worth of progress there. We've skipped over some missions we'd otherwise have to do. But perhaps more importantly, having this standard makes fights easier. Firstly, it increases the resolve of all of the troops nearby, their morale basically. Plus, I thought it was going to be an accessory, but it's actually a weapon, and it's a really good weapon. It's miles better than anything we have now. It does like double the damage of a spear and has 2 range, so you can poke at the enemy from a distance with it. So this is a very sharp flag. If only we could buy some more of these. Here's a look at our renown. We've got 500 or so, aiming for 700 and something, which somebody on Reddit or somewhere like that said is a good amount to have for it to be more sustainable. Here I am hiring a new party member and gearing him up with a pitchfork. This is because after looking into this battle standard thing, I realized the useful gimmick to weapons that have 2 melee range, and that's that they can't be blocked by the guys adjacent to you. So you can have guys with 2 range behind the front line, and they can safely attack the guys in front of the front line. Meaning we're now going to be trying that strategy to try and keep some more guys alive and land some free attacks. With our new renown, we get a really good mission here. We're going to get over 1,000 crowns just to walk between 2 settlements, and we do that easily enough. That's certainly going to be a profitable one. That's what we like to see. Unfortunately, the next mission we take on here isn't going to be quite so good. We also have to spend some of that money immediately buying tools because we are at 0 and we need the tools to have our armor replenish after battle, so survivability does depend on constantly buying those tools. But still, we've got some good money now. Not enough money to buy the next tier of equipment for even 1 soldier or anything like that, but it's a start. We can now afford to have a bad battle and still buy our way back into the game. This next fight is another camp assault with some palisades to navigate around. But we don't really have to worry too much about that because our frontal assault's going to go pretty well. Firstly, our guy with a fork one-shots the first enemy, then the guy with the standard one-shots the next enemy, so our first contact with the enemy force killed 2 of them for free. So all of a sudden it seems like these long-range melee attacks are going to be pretty good. I'm guessing the first one was a headshot or something and that's why I got the kill. With the second one, the damage is just through the roof with the standard, so it's okay. Of course, the enemy can easily kill us as well, and we nearly lose this guy right here, depleted to virtually no health. Then by some miracle, he blocks the next couple of attacks that are landed on him and gets away without dying, but he's certainly not out of danger yet with the enemy still standing there. We're doing a couple of flank attacks, as you can see, plus there's an enemy with a fork who can poke through the palisades, which is inconvenient. We need to get back there and lock him down in melee. Now, I need to get out of the way with the guys behind the front line to make sure we have space to continue poking over the top of it. Bang, there's another decent hit against that enemy. Then the standard advances again and stabs through, killing this brigand thug. Clearly, flags are the most powerful weapon for some reason, and as I said earlier, it's a shame we can't just buy more of these things. We can buy pikes, which act in a similar way, but they're much more expensive than these flags for some reason. So yes, we advance around the northern flank and kill the guy who was poking at us. The southern flank battle's a bit more hard fought, but we're going to be breaking through right here to help out. Some more stabbing with the flag does the business. And from here, we're almost guaranteed to win. And I've got my guy who's nearly dead right out on the left side of the screen, as you can see. So he's now out of the action, just going to keep him over there so that he doesn't get hit by an arrow or something and go down. We eventually surround and pound everyone else. And that's that. It actually went really well with 4 kills on that banner holder. Pretty special. We've also got some okay loot because it's a base attack. Not very much, and when you really look into it, you get less loot than what you used to fight. So like getting 1 bandage and a couple of tools doesn't make a big difference, but it feels a bit better for something you would expect to find here to be here, even if it doesn't make that much difference, which is why it would be pretty easy to rebalance normal battles to include that as well, I'm pretty sure. After this fight, I level somebody up and give them the Drill Sergeant perk, which was my ambition at the moment. So we've completed another ambition, getting us another cool 100 renown, pushing us closer and closer to having a profitable enterprise here. with the money I currently have, we can blow it all on some armor. I bought one piece of armor that was slightly better than the usual trash, and one middling bit of armor, this mail shirt. Buying that has emptied our treasury again, so it's back to work after that. But all things put together, we now have one guy with reasonable gear. That's pretty special. Just 11 more to go, 12 actually, because I've got a reserve guy right now who's not in the combat line. The next mission I take on is the one I remembered from earlier, the one that I thought was going to be at the start of this episode, where we have to defend this town from the undead who are on the way in. So we're essentially just waiting around, and then a party appears. We attack them, and here we go, we're fighting 10 undead, a bunch of zombies, and a necromancer. Now I figured, well, if we just stand in a line with our shield wall, we can resist the zombies. And that was true for the most part. The zombies aren't that strong and they have bad equipment. And at the bottom of the line we've got this little surround area where we can quickly bring down the first guy. So that's looking good. But as it turns out, that's not how things work when you're fighting the undead, because you might note there's a necromancer sitting at the back. At first, what I thought he was going to be doing is buffing the enemy. He appears to take control of some of the undead sometimes, and it makes them have way more attacks than usual. So I figured maybe we want to try and get back there and kill him early on to help out and stop him buffing them. But he actually can bring them back from the dead. So in quick succession, we see an enemy come back, and then one of my allies gets headshotted and killed instantly. So now we're in trouble. We need to push forwards, but of course in this game, once you're in a fight, it's not so easy as that. You can't freely move. We can't move through them, of course, and when you're in combat with them at all, going backwards and around is going to be nearly impossible, because not only do you take attacks while moving backwards, but as you try to move around them, because you can't move very far, they'll just advance towards you again and put you back into combat. So we needed to have known this in advance really, and put some of the party off in the corner to sneak along the edge of the map or something like that. I'm still not really trying to go for the necromancer. As you can see, that guy just went behind the enemy lines. My original assumption was that he could only bring back one enemy at a time, and I thought, well, we'll just kill them fast enough to bring them down. They're not that strong. This assumption was incorrect. I think he can bring back any number. I've seen up to 3 come back in one turn. So we're just stuck in this infinite fight here. We need to get out of it. We've got a couple of guys who are in some sort of position to start running towards the necromancer, but because he's guarded by another undead soldier, really we need to send more than a couple of guys to guarantee anything. And the longer we take, the more damage will just constantly be building up on our main line, and the more risk as well. It's quite frustrating, as you can perhaps imagine, because of the stickiness of combat. Now that we're committed to this fight going on here with the zombies, it's very difficult for us to get out. We could try and move backwards, but they would come after us, and we can shield bash them sometimes to move forwards, but only by 1 tile. So it would take an immensely long time to move the 7 or 8 tiles forwards to get to where we need to be using that. Well, I'm going to use it right here to try and bash back this soldier. It works, but it doesn't really gain us a great advantage because he's bashed back to the place where I'm trying to go. We can try and go around up there, although that's not going to help too much. In the meantime, there is something to be done in this main fight, because when the enemies come back, they come back with no armor and like half health. So depleting their armor bars and depleting their health bars is going to make the fight more sustainable, in that we can get the enemies to a point when we're constantly one-hit killing them and they're going to get fewer attacks on us. If there was any hope of there being some rule where they had to be dead for a certain number of turns before they came back, it's gone now, because some of the guys I killed immediately come back like as the next action. So yes, killing them, not too effective, but knocking them out of the way, sort of useful right there. It allows my spearman to keep running across the top. He's now a couple of turns away from being able to get to the necromancer. Just need to survive a couple of turns. I also wanted to break through in the main position somewhere, but here, after knocking that enemy back, I'm still stuck in zones of control, so I can only shuffle forwards. We need to get the enemy dead for like a couple of our turns so that we can walk over their corpses and be on the other side of them. That's the ideal thing. I'm working on killing this enemy at the bottom of that line of 3 there, because if that guy dies, then my guy with the green hood is now not in anybody's zone of control and can theoretically make a run for it over towards the Necromancer, but only if the zombies don't approach us, which they do. So here we are a bit later. We've made a bit of forward progress, but the zombies are still blocking our zones of control, or creating zones of control I should say, everywhere. Here we just go for it. We managed to not get hit, and I sprinted from their zone of control to the Necromancer zone of control. I think that might be the other way to get out of this. Just forget the whole zone of control thing and just sprint past them as much as possible. You might get hit, but you probably won't because the zombies aren't that good. We can't see their stats or the probabilities of all this, but in retrospect that appears to be a good idea. So we've now got some guys over in the Necromancer's zone of control, and what I hoped was that that would stop him from bringing the zombies back, and this appears to be the case, because after we kill some more, they don't come back at all. We're actually clearing things up back here a little bit. I'm guessing that while the Necromancer is technically in a melee with your guys, he's not raising the dead. So you don't even have to kill him, you just need some guys to get back there and then sit there with their shields raised. That might be enough to make these battles easier. We wipe out the zombies, who are all basically nearly dead because we'd killed them already, and then push forwards on the Necromancer, killing some more zombies on the way. There's one more thing we can hope for at this stage, and that is that killing the Necromancer will automatically kill the other zombies. I really thought that would be what happens, because that just seems so natural. But unfortunately not, it just stops him from being able to raise them back from the dead. So that's that, we just have to finish off a couple of half-dead zombies now, and we soon win the battle. Only one casualty. I felt like it was going to be a lot more since I wasn't prepared for the undead gimmick. But now we know about it, maybe I could change my formation to be more suitable to a rush and trying to fight on the other side of the enemy line. The loot isn't that good, but this time it's what I expected. I didn't expect to be getting any gear from a small group of undead with only one living among them. So that time it was okay. I'm not complaining about it. We're going to get a bit of money for completing the mission, saving the village from the undead of course. Probably not enough to pay back our loss in manpower and the armor he was wearing though. We also have a task to win a battle against 12 enemies. That's pretty frustrating because we just had a battle where we got like 18 kills, but technically it was against 10 enemies or something, so that doesn't count. Haven't actually seen an enemy party that's that big, but I thought maybe I will soon because we're kind of progressing through time or something. I figured the game was going to be annoying where it just automatically gets harder over time. I'm not sure if that's the case yet. We'll find out. Went to the nearby city, hoping to get a good price for the monster parts I picked up. We got an absolutely terrible price, but I hadn't seen a better one anywhere, so I finally just took the loss and sold them for virtually nothing. Need to then buy some expensive food because we're running out. There's also a discount spear for sale here. We'll buy it, repair it, kind of using money through the tools system, and give it to our reserve party member who's now going to be in the main party. We grabbed a mission there which was just to walk to another settlement again somewhere to the southwest, and here I am on the way. Just before we arrived I saw this brigand party that appears to be running away from me, and I thought, oh, why don't we just kill them and see what they've got. But I figured it might not be worth the risk, because you might lose somebody fighting brigands and you're not going to get paid for completing any missions by doing this. So unless you get extremely good loot, the damage just to your equipment in fighting them is likely to cost more than you'll get by selling the stuff that they'll drop, which will not be very much with only a small group of enemies there, and probably no food and stuff just to be annoying to me. Anyway, we complete that mission and make it to town. Quickly have to buy more food. Our larger party size now means we're getting through food quite quickly and spending more and more cash on that. Pretty inconvenient. I wish we had some undead soldiers of our own. That would both be pretty convenient for our economy and be an interesting gimmick to play around with. Maybe that is a thing in a DLC or something, I don't know. We then pick up another mission. It's to fight some bandits nearby in another bandit base. And this is where I had to take a bit of a pause. It's time for another hashtag Battle Brothers breakdown, because I'd done this same mission so many times recently. We've seen it like 2 or 3 times in this part. And I just thought, can we keep doing this? Like, we're gaining renown, but what I wanted to know is this going anywhere? Is this the game? Or is this the early game leading to something else? Because I felt like we were just going in circles, and while we could become more powerful, the game will probably just make the enemies more powerful and you'll end up in the same situation as at the start. It was implied that there's some kind of late game to this and that things will change, and that you can take on harder contracts later, but I'm not really interested in taking on harder contracts. I just want different ones, or ones that aren't the battles or something like that. Anyway, eventually I am broken and go into the fight to actually do it. It's another camp assault where the game mocks you by having stuff all over the map that won't be there on the loot screen. We're going to do a nice safe strategy, standing in a line with my shields and having the guys with pokey things just sit behind, poking over the top. And the shields do get some sort of adjacency bonus if everybody raises their shield next to each other at the same time, so that's handy. It all breaks down soon enough. I had a couple of guys going around to the back of the enemy, and they had a guy go around to the back of me, that axe guy on the left. So while my rear attack is pretty successful, their rear attack is good too. They broke the shield of the guy on the end of my line, and I tried to run away to not get killed. This caused him to get killed because of that thing, so that's unfortunate. However, we are still in a good position overall. These enemies are weaker than us, some of them are a bit surrounded, and we've got the luck to grab a few kills, especially with our spears as always. I wanted to get this guy out of combat to go and lock the axe guy down into combat. Missed the shield push, but then just killed the enemy instead. That's going to work things out. From here, it's an easy enough surround and pound of all the guys towards the middle, and it was just the strong axe guy at the back we had to deal with. We could surround and pound him. We didn't take any further losses, so that's nice. But of course, taking that one loss will negate a lot of the gain from doing this mission. A shame, but the loot isn't that bad despite my complaints, because we actually got some armor drops, several armor drops by sheer luck. We were lucky enough to not headshot the enemy many times, so we actually got a lot of hats, including 2 metal helmets, and one of them dropped a ring, which is worth a couple of 100 crowns. So that's going to make this more worthwhile, and that's more like what I want to see from loot. There are mods that apparently add to the loot, but as previously mentioned, they don't work. So that's that. I suppose that will be the end of this part. We'll just keep doing more missions in the next part. I've got some more footage of me doing some more missions. Nothing in particular happens, but I'll see where it's going, I suppose.